Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by Air Patrol North. Visit airpatrolnorth.ca. He's been in professional wrestling for over 60 years. That has to be some kind of record. Bushwhacker Luke, part of the greatest tag team in WWE history. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Our guest today hails from Wellington, New Zealand. He started wrestling at the age of 15 years in 1962. He joined up with cousin Butch, won the NWA Tag Team title, won the Stampede Wrestling belt, won the IWE Championship, won the CWA Championship, won the WCW Championship, won the WWE Championship, including the WrestleMania title, 26 Tag Team Championships, a Hall of Famer in the WWE and World Wrestling. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Bushwhacker Luke Williams.
Whoa! Great to be on Joe Tilley's Canadian Sports Show, matey. Looking forward to talking to you and going back in history.
All right, Luke. Yeah, we almost had you there from Jersey in the beginning in our pre-date there, but what were you thinking?
That's okay, mate. I'm alive. That's the main thing.
Yeah, you know what? And you're looking fantastic, I might add. We're going to get into some wrestling video in just a moment. But first off, I just want to thank our mutual friend, Tom Doyle of Corporate Protection and Investigative Services for hooking us up. And Tom's a great guy. And we're really glad to have you on the show.
He's not a bad guy when you're looking at the back of him.
Yeah. Well, he is better looking from the back. I don't think anybody's going to do that.
Yeah, you know, when he's looking at the front, he opens his mouth. It's scary.
Yeah, it kind of takes up the whole room when he opens his mouth. That is a little bit scary.
He's like his dogs. He barks.
So we want to talk about this incredible storied career you've had, one of the greatest wrestling careers of all time. And we want to start at the beginning. Luke, how did it all start?
Well, mate, it all started with my neighbor next door. My neighbor was a bodybuilder, and he went into the Mr. New Zealand contest way back in 1961. He placed in the contest, and the judge was a former Mr. New Zealand of 1950. Like we're going back in time. We're going back in time here, mate. Anyhow, 1950. And he said to my neighbor after the show, he said, "You want to make some money with that body?" And my neighbors looked at him and said, "How?" And he says, "Come to the gym in Wellington, Coolman's Gym." He says, "I'm there 4 nights a week during the week." And hence he goes in. Now the gym was like, I went to the gym 6 months down the line. The gym was like the gym in the first Rocky movie. The steam had a steam room. The steam pipes that rattled, you'd hear it through the gym. There was cowbells, the round things with the handles laying all over the floor. I forget, what do they call those bells? You know,
kettlebells.
Kettlebells, all laying over the floor. There was a few dumbbells. There was 2 racks there. No machines. two racks. A bench press rack and a squat rack. and two rings. 2 rings, maybe 8 inches off the floor, and they were boxing rings, 20 by 20, and as hard as hell on the floor. Anyhow, 6 months after he started training, he found out it was pro wrestling. I'd never heard of pro wrestling, and anyhow, 6 months down the line, he said, "Come." He took me to the gym with him. It was 6 or 8 miles away. So we hopped in the car and I went to the notorious Coolman's Gym. Now, this gym was noted for all the Commonwealth, or, the British Commonwealth Championships, like wrestling and boxing. I'm talking about amateurs that all been through there. The top ones around the world when they came into the Commonwealth Games and that, they all came to Coolman's Gym in Wellington. You know, the
Wow.
Commonwealth Games are just like the Olympic Games, but it's all the British countries. Anyhow, I started training there with them, and I went to one professional match in Wellington, the capital city, and watched the tag match with my partner. And 6 months, maybe 4 months down the line, so I've been training for 6 months. Now, 3 months after that, he said, I'm going to a town 100 miles away. Do you want to keep me company? And I said, yes. So I went to the show with him in Palmerston North. One of these days, there was 3 professional matches. It was amateurs to half time and 3 professional matches. Now, the first match guy, we waited for him. He never arrived. They asked me what size shoe I took. I told him, and next minute a pair of boots come flying across the room, the locker room at me. I had a pair of jeans on. They threw me a tank top, and next minute I was in the ring. I was 175 wet, and I had long blonde hair, and my name then was Gorgeous Teddy Williams.
Right, Gorgeous Teddy Williams.
Well, there was
right. Eventually, he became Sweet William. Yeah.
In 1962, Jim Barnett. In 1964, 65, Jim Barnett, the American promoter, opened up Australia, WCW, World Championship Wrestling, and he's the one that changed my name to Sweet William.
Right. So you and Butch were originally known as the Kiwis, and you mentioned Australia. But what made you decide to come to Canada?
Before we get to that, mate, Butch was didn't start. He was still playing rugby. He was playing a man's sport called rugby.
Okay.
You heard of it, mate? No paddings.
Right.
Anyhow, he started training in 65, and in 66 we became a tag team.
Okay, and so you guys
one little story before we get to Canada, mate. Sorry, but I got to tell this one.
No, tell me.
1969, 1970, a big bastard. His name was Jean Ferry, came to New Zealand. He was from France. He'd worked in Europe and he worked in UK, but he'd never been to the States. He came to New Zealand as we got all the people from Europe and England and New Zealand, to wrestle at that time. And Butch and me worked with this tall guy all around New Zealand for about a month and a half, 2 months. We worked all the towns, handicap matches, 2-on-1. Now this guy was 7'4" and 350 pounds with a big afro. He looked skinny compared to what he was. By the way, this guy was Andre the Giant.
No way.
When he died, he was 540 pounds. But at the moment, he's 350.
Wow. Andre the Giant, back in the very early days.
He came to North America in 1971 to work for a company in Canada called Grand Prix. At that time, Canada was the hottest in North America. Canada, the northeast part of Canada, was the hottest place for wrestling in the north, in USA and Canada. And he came in for Grand Prix. They were running one town a night. Now, Butch and me came to Canada, the same promoters, the Vachons, Butcher Vachon and Mad Dog Vachon, and Edward Carpentier. And that they were the owners of the territory. And we came there in 1972. When we came there, the company was running 3 towns a night. And there was opposition. There was the Rougeaus. They were running 1 town a night. So in Quebec and Ontario, there was 4 wrestling shows a night, 7 nights a week.
Holy crap. You were busy. Were you getting beat up a little bit tired? Obviously, had to be a shape to handle that.
No, we were dead lucky here, mate. The main villain in the territory was Killer Kowalski, and he was the man that came down to Australia in 1965 when Jim Barnett had opened up Australia, WCW. and we traveled with him, and we worked in Australia a lot. And we were on the planes all the time in Australia, but we got to know Killer Kowalski. He was a real gentleman. And of course, when we got there too, the main baby face was Andre the Giant. And all we worked while we were there, we were lucky. We were the main tag team in one of the towns, the minor towns, and we worked with Andre and Edward Capontier. We worked with the two Vachon brothers, and then the two Italians, Dino Bravo and Gino Brito. They were, for a year and a half, we mainly worked with those guys all over, the eastern side of Canada.
Right. Well, eventually you made your way out west, because that's where you caught my attention. I grew up in Alberta, and of course I remember watching Stampede Wrestling with Ed Whalen, Stu Hart,
okay, maybe
Archie the Stomper Goldie, Sweet Daddy Siki.
Yeah. Sweet Daddy Siki was working for Grand Prix when I was there. He used to come in and out, and we tagged with him for one match there, a 6-man tag. Sweet Daddy Siki, Butch, and myself. Anyhow, after a year and a half, they said to us, you can stay here, but you have to start doing the honors. The honors is, having our toes of our boots facing the ceiling in the ring.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Gotcha. Selling advertisement on the bottom of your wrestling shoes. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes, we'd be on our backs, but they said, we'd like to bring you back, in a year or two. So we're going to ship you out to a promotion called Stampede. Now, we'd never heard of Stampede. We'd never heard of Stu Hart and that. Anyhow, next minute, fly into Alberta and to Calgary, and then on a Thursday, Friday night, they do the TV in the pavilion in the showgrounds. And now there's two arenas. There's the pavilion and there's the corral. The corral held about 10 to 12,000. Pavilion held about 3,000. This room was the room that they sold the cattle and the horses and that. So it was all tent seating all around it, and then they put chairs on the floor. So
yeah. Well, in that video we saw, yeah, of course, yeah, the corral and the yeah, for sure. That's where the Flames played when they first moved to Calgary, and the junior team used to play there too. So and the pavilion as well. Actually, I boxed in the pavilion before back in the day. I was going to mention that. I remember those old dirty boxing gyms where you'd kind of you practice your footwork by avoiding the cockroaches. And I mean, the rats must have been an added excitement for you too.
Yeah. 1 minute, matey. I'm gonna wet the whistle.
Wet your whistle. While you're doing that, we saw some video of you and Nick Carter. Butch was Nick Carter at the time. You were Sweet William. The Kiwis facing Owen and Bret Hart. Tell us about that particular showdown you guys would have with these guys.
Owen and Bret Hart. Now that, mate, you're jumping to 1979. We're in 72 at the moment. We're in 72.
Oh, okay.
I've got to tell you the story about arriving there. Anyhow, that night, the first night there, we're working against the tag team champions, and that for non-title match, and we're getting DQ'd, disqualified. So at the end of the match, we pull out a chain and we knock one of them down. He's bleeding. We knock the other one down. He's bleeding with the chain, and then we put the boots to them. While we're putting the boots to them, bloody one kid gets thrown in. I'd say about 12 or 11. Another kid gets thrown in, and the guy outside the ring says, "Put the boot to him, champs. Put the boot to him, champs." So we've got the two champions and putting the boot, and we're putting the boot to these two kids. Next minute, two more kids get thrown in. These two kids are bleeding. Now these two kids are bleeding, and we're putting the boot to them. Now we've got 6 people laying on the floor, and we're huffing and puffing because we just had a match, and we're putting the boots to them, and all the referees come in, and we clear house. We head back to the dressing room, and in the hallway, you come down a chute, and there's dressing rooms on each side of the chute to go back into the dressing rooms. And there's a guy standing at the front, 5'11", around 270 pounds, very thick at the hips. I say about 270 or 280, and he says, "What the hell are you doing? They're my kids." Now we never heard. We heard that night was the first time we heard of Stu Hart, and I said he sort of talks with that
yeah.
And he said they're my bloody kids. What do you think you're doing with them? And then we realized that's the promoter. And then we went back to the dressing room. Now the guy who was throwing the kids in was Abdullah the Butcher.
Oh, Abdullah the Butcher, sure.
That's why 2 kids were bleeding. He'd hacked their heads and thrown them. He'd thrown them into posts in the arena and hacked their heads and threw them in the ring.
Oh,
and that so right now the gist of the story is the next night. Those days the television was bicycled. Calgary got it the next morning at 10 o'clock. They saw the show from Friday night. But the rest of the territory, it was a week later seeing the show. And the Saturday night, we did Edmonton. So Stu picked us up and took us to Edmonton in his limousine. That's another story.
Yeah.
Driving to Edmonton is another story. Anyhow, we worked in Edmonton. Now, that weekend, we didn't know that 3 times a year, Stu does a double Calgary show. He does Friday night in the Pavilion, and then Sunday, he does the Corral.
Right.
Sunday, we did the Corral, and that's the first time we ever walked out to the ring, and we had people throwing stuff at us. They'd seen us beat up the kids, because the kids have been on television. They've been selling programs.
They were stars. Yeah.
They've been selling programs for Stu since they were about 5 or 6, walking around the arena. So the fans knew who the kids were. So when we went to the ring, people were throwing stuff and screaming at us. But we didn't have the drawing heat, the heat to fill arena. That we were hated from day one. But it takes about 6 weeks or 4 weeks to get that heat where the people really hate you and they'll come to see you get beaten. But that was our first night and our third night in Calgary. And that night we worked against the champions and won the belts.
Wow. Knowing how popular the Hearts were back in the day, you guys probably did take on the bad guy moniker right away, right?
Yeah. Now Bruce Smith, he didn't work so much, but Bruce worked, and his brother, the fireman. I forget. A brain fart.
It's okay.
He worked at the time. There's only 2 Hearts two Hearts more or less working in the ring. Anyhow, when I came now, as you said, we worked in Calgary for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and then we got a call from New Zealand to say we got television in New Zealand, wrestling.
Oh.
And we got on a show called On the Mat. So we flew home to do that for a few years. And then meanwhile, we did Australia and I did Japan. And then 78, 79, we got the call again and we came back to North America. We worked in Hawaii and while in Hawaii, we met Roddy Piper and Buddy Rhodes. These 2 guys were from Portland, Oregon. and they saw us work in Hawaii, and they said, "Shit, we're short of a tag team, a heel tag team in Portland." And that night when they saw us in Hawaii, that was a big show in Pearl Harbor. They called up Don Owens in Northwest Championship Wrestling, and we spoke to Don. Don Owens said yes. If Roddy and Buddy quote for you, I want you to come in, and he gave us the date. So he gave us a date. So we left it. We left Hawaii. We had a Japan trip, and we had 6 weeks off before we started in Northwest Championship Wrestling. Northwest Championship Wrestling ran from the top of California, which was Oregon. They ran from the top,
Washington,
the bottom of Oregon,
Washington, Seattle,
the
Washington.
bottom of Warrington, and it ran into Washington. It ran into Vancouver, Medford.
Right.
It ran from Medford to Vancouver, all up the northwest coast. Anyhow,
right.
We went back to Stu Hart's territory for 6 weeks, and that's when you saw us fighting Brett and his brother.
Owen. Yes.
No, Owen was
Owen?
the kid. It wasn't Owen. That's the other guy was the brother I was trying to think of. He became a fireman.
Brett. Okay. Right.
Anyhow, in that time we worked a 6-man. We teamed up with Tommy Billington. Tommy Billington was a British Bulldog. Was one of the British Bulldogs in WWF. And Davey Boy hadn't arrived there yet. Tommy Billington. Oh, by the way, when we left in 1972, we were the smallest heels in the territory. There was Abdullah, there was Big John Quinn, there was all big guys, and Archie Goldie was about 270.
He was massive.
He had one hell of a body. He was the stomper, and we were 230. Butch was about 235, and I was 220. Anyhow, when we came back in '79, we're in the dressing room, and all the guys are around. The biggest guys are around 200 pounds, 210 pounds, and we're looking around, and they're all fucking a lot of English guys, I wait for the bell to start the first match, and I go out and look at the arena. The arena is jam-packed. And I thought, how the hell? These are all fucking small. Anyhow, I watched the main event. That was Tommy Billington, the British Bulldog, against another British guy in a cage match. And that's when I first saw Tommy Billington on the top of the cage come off with a headbutt on the guy. He'd slammed the guy nearly over to the other side of the ring, went up the corner and did his flying headbutt. And that was the first time I ever saw that move. And that was the big move that he used to do. Off the top of the cage.
Flying headbutt.
Just like Jimmy Snooker. The headbutt off the top of the cage.
That sounds a little dangerous to me. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Now I realize why the arenas were jammed. This Tommy Billington, British Bulldog, was another piece of machine. He was another machine that I'd never seen before. He'd been working in Japan since he was only 175, 180. And that the guy he was working against was maybe 190. And then I'd never seen guys work like this. I'd worked in Japan, but I hadn't seen this British style working. You know what I mean? I'd worked with Americans and Japanese when I was in Japan, but I'd never been where there's been British working. You know, the light heavyweights. We'd had a lot of British heavyweights in New Zealand, but no light heavyweights or junior heavyweights. And boy, that was another. You know, it's like these guys who are flying around on WWE today, or the lighter guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
all that stuff.
light heavyweights, yeah.
Yeah, junior heavyweights, like they do. You know, that AEW has got a lot of them there, the light guys. You know, they do a lot of stuff off the corners and they put the guys on tables on the floor and they go up on the top rope and do, a 360, a 480 spin and land on the table, you know what I mean, on the guy. All that crazy stuff.
It is crazy. Let's talk about your move to the WWE, and we have and the Bushwhackers become a thing, and we have some actual video heading back and from the day. The famous walk. How did you come up with this walk?
Well, can I tell you the intro to Can I tell you the intro to WWF, mate?
Sure, absolutely. It's
Well,
good.
we're working for NWA Crockett out of Charlotte, and then we working around the country. You know, they were a powerful promotion, one of the biggest promotions, you know, in the 80s, bigger than WWF, because WWF was going from Baltimore to Boston.
Yeah,
That was Vince Senior. NWA was going up as far as Philadelphia and across the country. In the South, they were on the superstation, WTBS and
right.
TNT, which was the power at that time. It was the satellite station, which Jim
Superstation.
Barnett
Yeah,
had got Ted Turner to put
yeah,
wrestling on from 1976 onwards. When Jim Barnett came back from Australia in '73, by '75 he took Ted Turner, who became a good friend of his, to put wrestling on the superstation. Anyhow, we're in Columbus. I go in and we're in the gym working out on a Saturday morning. I go to the phone box outside the gym and I ring up home to pick up my messages on my phone. And there's a message from Pat. Who the hell is Pat? So
yeah,
they said, call me when you can. So of course I called him and he said, Pat here. And I'm still not knowing. He said, I got a guy to talk to you. And the voice on the speakerphone said, hey, Kiwis, this is Vince McMahon. Now, I'd been sending tapes right up to the tapes from 1982, 83, the
yeah,
Betamax. I don't remember, but
yeah. I
remember
remember
Betamax
Betamax.
tape, the
Yeah,
big
yeah,
3/4 inch
yeah,
tape for television. I've been sending
yeah.
tapes to WWE since 1983. But Vince Senior never liked small guys. They wanted big guys all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyhow, they just fired the British Bulldogs due to a fight that Tommy had with Rougeau, Jock Rougeau. You heard about that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, so they'd fired the British Bulldogs, and Jim Vince said, I'd like to talk to you guys about coming up here. And boy, when I heard that, I said, when? And he says, when you can come? And I just quoted any day. I said, Wednesday. He said, okay, there'll be tickets. Give me your address. There'll be tickets on your doorstep when you get home.
Wow. Wow.
We got home on Monday. There was tickets there. We told NWA we had to go to either Canada or had to go to the Bahamas to get our visas renewed. We were on work permits,
Oh my God.
so we had a good excuse, you know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't expiring. It wasn't expiring, but we had the excuse. So they gave us a day off. We flew up that morning, first class. A limousine picked us up and took us to Vince's
Whoa.
office. We went into
Very
Vince's
nice.
office when he called us in, and he said, "G'day, mate." Blah blah blah. He said, "I'd like to bring you in, but what do you think about being the good guys?" And we said, "I said, well, bring us in." I was the old school. I'd been a booker for around territories in the States, for Joe Blanchard, for WWC in Puerto Rico, for different places around the North U.S. You know what a booker is, running the back of the house for the promoter. Anyhow, I said to him, bring us in as bad guys and we'll turn to good guys. He says, that's not, I soon learned you didn't tell Caesar what to do.
Right.
Julius Caesar. He says, no, I don't do that. I just bring you in as baby faces from day one, but I'll bring you up for a few weeks doing vignettes. And I said, what's a vignette? He says, oh, it's a 2-minute movie, 2 to 3 minute movie. And that, so we agreed, and then he never gave us the name. He says, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we're going to bring you up for, 2 or 3 weeks doing these vignettes, and then I'll give you a starting date. So he flew us up. And by the way, at that time, the Crocodile Dundee 2 had just come out.
Yeah.
And you know how hot those movies were. They were super hot. And so we copied some of the sayings and all the different things off the movies. And that we came in and did the vignettes. And that, like, driving down the street on the wrong side of the road, and the Coke machine, we never seen machines that popped out drinks and all that sort of stuff. We know in the end, we got shown you had to put money in, and the can had come out, but I couldn't open the can, so I took out took it from my teeth, my front teeth, and popped the can with my teeth, put my teeth back in. We went to diners, and the waitress came up and said, "What do you want?" And we just like, "Give us the whole page." We did these vignettes, and we ate. When the knife and forks were in, we threw the knife and forks away and ate with our hands. We did stupid shit. You know what I mean? Well, comedy stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
Anyhow, we did a lot of vignettes, and these vignettes were great. They helped get us over as people from down under. As two guys from down under were using sayings from the movie, so people understood where we were.
That's not a knife.
Funny. Huh?
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
No, no, this is a knife. We did a cooking show, and I think we said something. We got a knife to cut up the lettuce and that, and then that's when we use that saying.
Put some shrimp on the barbie.
I'm just thinking of all the videos now, mate. When I think of them, I laugh like hell. Anyhow, he said, we're starting. I got you starting at a show. Now, he sent us contracts, and Butch called me up and he said, hey, they sent the wrong contracts to us. This is for the Bushwhackers. And I said, Butch, Vince wants to own us. He's changing our name. I was always the office guy, the office guy between Butch and myself. I did the bookings and I did all the office work as I've been a booker. And anyhow, all of a sudden, so we're the Bushwhackers now. And we still, Vince has said to us, I want you between the sheep herders and the moon dogs, but I want you to be the nice, the baby faces. But what rough and tough. And Butch said to us, we've been on Turner Network for the last 10 years, from 79, 80, we've been on Turner Network, for NWA, and he said, we've got to do something different. He said, we've got to do something different. And he said, the Moondogs have been on their network for USA Network since 83, 84, and this is 88. So he said, every time we worked on as heels, when we were thrown out the ring, we'd swing our arms up to the crowd because we're on the floor and go, whoa, yay, in a vicious way. And Butch said, let's turn that around and march to the ring, lifting our knees up, swinging our arms. And I cried straight away. I said, Butch, my shoulders are screwed. I use the F word. My shoulders are effed. and he said, he put his nose up to me and he said, "Do you want to make money?" And of course, I adopted the arm swinging. And of course, something. So when we marched to the ring and that, we used to go to the ring too and bend down and that. And Butch used to rub my head, and I used to rub his head. So when we marched to the ring, all the fans would lean over the rails and wanting their head rubbed.
Yeah.
the MFs, the mothers. So we had to march, and they'd be marching when we come out. Then they'd lean over the rail on the way to the ring. We'd have to rub their head, and they loved that. So we adopted that thing, and in the end, Butch bent over and started fucking giving them a lick on the forehead, which was a bad thing.
Well, you wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't be doing it now after the COVID thing we had going on.
No, and I wasn't. I was grabbing their heads and put my hand over their head and pretend to lick their head, but I was
lick your hand. Smart guy. Yeah.
Butch got bloody sepsis. He got like that what's it called now?
Hoof and mouth disease or something like that, or
and he nearly died twice. You know, he nearly died twice. That's another story. Anyhow, yes, I found him. I'll get to that anyhow. So we started going to the ring, and of course, the fans picked up on this straight away. So the Bushwhackers were born. You know, all the different agents. There was George Steele. There was there was the champ from AWA. What was his name now? Always Nick Bockwinkel. These were agents.
Right.
The Frenchmen. They all told us different ways to go to the ring. But one of the agents said, one of you come down the aisle from the dressing room, the other one come out of the stand. One of us eating popcorn, the other one drinking a drink. And we had to tell them, we both got to come together. We can't have fans looking one way and the other.
Right,
so hence, we marched down the aisle doing that, and hence the Bushwhackers were born. It took us a week in the ring to get the gimmick over, and that after a week, maybe 2 weeks on television, everybody in the arena was doing that march. And believe it or not, on the NFL, when there was a touchdown in the end zone, the players would score, and then they would do the Bushwhacker walk. That's how popular it got.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Hey,
awesome.
Butch's TV, Vince's TV was strong. He put us on a lot of talk shows, put us on Regis Philbin Show, Personality Squares. We did a lot of little television things. We did dinners all over the country, not in wrestling. Sportsman of the Year dinners, Toys R Us, toy companies dinners, conventions. We did a lot of conventions in different walks of life to introduce new people to the wrestling business. This is how smart Vince was back then, when he's still a smart man. But back then he introduced us to a different array of people and trying to get them into the sports entertainment of wrestling.
Well, it did. It grew. We actually have some action with you. You guys, the Bushwhackers against Hardcore Holly and Mike Samples. Vic, roll some of that. When do you think this match would have taken place?
Shit. Holly, maybe 80, 90, 91, 92.
Okay.
That's when Vince was still doing enhancement matches. That's when they brought guys in and you beat them up in a short time. They were called enhancement matches. And that, but in the 90s, that all changed. Ted Turner had bought NWA in 89. He bought NWA about 6 months after we left. He was already negotiating for it when we were there, and then he bought it 6 months after. And because he owned the whole network, he was putting main events on. You know, all the matches were main events. There was no squash jobs. You know, NWA was doing just like they put two main events on the television show, short ones, and all the rest were squash matches. You know what I mean by that, right? Enhancement matches, and when Ted Turner bought it, he cut the enhancement matches out because he owned all the time around the wrestling matches on the television show. So he put all main events on and got more money for his commercials. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Well, enhancement, like it's like there's special
enhancement matches enhancement matches are matches. It goes 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes to get wrestlers over. You know, to get
okay, right.
Yeah,
Quick ending, so you can get one and another. Yeah. Get the commercials in.
To get other guys over. You get them most strong. You get a quick win, and then the next week you get another quick win, and it builds you up. It builds your status up. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Well, he cut that out. Ted Turner had two shows. He had one on TBS and one on TNT. And one of the shows he still did a few enhancement matches, but the main one on WTBS, which is just TBS now, he did all main events because the wrestling show was 42 minutes or 44 minutes those days. The other 16 minutes are commercials, and he owned all the commercial time, where Vince only owned the 44 minutes, and USA Network owned all the commercial time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but Vince then had to put all main events on. But Ted Turner did it. You know, to compete and get good ratings, he had to put all main events on, and hence in the 90s, that's when the war started. It wasn't until 96 till WCW started overrunning. Was 98. That's when the WCW had that run of is it 80 weeks or 66 weeks where they got better ratings than WWF, than WWE, WWF. Yeah, the only reason they got better ratings because Hogan went over to them in 94, 95, and he bought Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he bought Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior. He bought all the guys' contracts were going from Vince. And of course, Ted Turner had an open pocket. At that time, he didn't care. He just wanted to beat Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
You know,
and ego.
I don't know if you knew this, mate, but in '84, Vince was partners with Ted Turner.
Really?
Just for a short time, for 6 weeks, he was on TBS and their heads knocked. Two guys who were powerful.
Yeah.
Clashed, and Vince pulled out of WTBS at that time, and that was only a short run. They didn't get on together, and that was it.
Right, two guys that really want to have things go their way. They're not about to negotiate and get along very well.
And Vince won it back when I think it was a 98 when he had Mike Tyson as a referee in a match, and that's when Mike Tyson was the referee, and there was a knockout. Mike knocked one of the boys out, and hence the WWE got back on top again in the ratings, and the rest of the story. WCW went downhill. Vince bought it out, kept a few of the players, and WWF was stronger than ever. I think he bought the whole company. The whole company, Ted Turner was away, and they let the whole company go for 15 million or 5 million. He bought the whole library, everything. The library right from in the 70s. NWA library and WCW library, and hence Vince became the #1 powerhouse in the world.
We have some clips of you and Butch doing your thing. Let's roll that. So a little bit of a montage. Let's listen in. Vic?
Oh boy, we've got the bloody cheese, mate!
What are you guys doing?
We have favorite sandwich, a standing sandwich.
How'd you like to have the Bushwhackers over for your family's Christmas dinner?
Oh, it's gonna be the year of the Bushwhackers! Bushwhacker
Well, I imagine you actually did get invited for a few dinners, as you told us earlier, despite those antics.
Now, remember when I said we did vignettes before we went on the road for Vince? Remember I said he flew us in for 2 or 3 weeks and did vignettes? Yeah. You just sort of tasted them. That was about 6 vignettes, which are all 2 to 3 minutes long each. That's what got us over as the Bushwhackers.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, he sure did the job, didn't he? What a great promoter.
That's what was played on 2 different stations. Or USA Network on different USA Network. Vince had 2 shows or 3 shows on USA Network. He had the Monday night, which it wasn't Raw at the time, and then he had one on Saturday morning, and maybe it was one late at Thursday night, and he kept playing those vignettes all the time, and hence the Bushwhackers were born.
So a storied, incredible career, and in 2015, you and Butch were inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and we have a clip from that night. Vic, let's roll that.
It's been a long journey since hitting the shores of North America. We came here in 1972, and today we stand on the biggest stage in sports entertainment, the 2015 WWE Hall of Fame. Right,
oh, yeah.
Butch.
Whoa!
Yeah!
Yeah, you can see that Butch was looking a little frail at that particular time, and it wasn't long after.
He was on 2 crutches, mate. They'd cut an inch out of his ankles. You know, he got bad. He had broken both ankles, and he got this staff. Staff was the word I was thinking of. That's more common for the people to understand. And that he got staff in his body, and they cut him, and he was an inch shorter, and they just operated on him. He got this sepsis twice. He got it was in New Zealand. I called him up to go to a show to pick him up, to take him to the airport. And he says, I'm all effed up. He said, I can't move. And I said, I'll send you to the chiropractor. They had to wheel it. My son-in-law had to wheel him out on an office chair with wheels to the car. He couldn't walk. He thought it was just, he put something out and all the nerves were pinched, but it wasn't. It was the stuff going through his body. So the next day, I called him on my way home from the show. I flown up to Columbus and somewhere to go to do a show. He was in Ohio anyhow, and called him the next day. There was no answer. I was stopped at his home on the way home. He was laying on the bed in his own pee and feta and pee and poo, goodness. and all he could say was water. So I dialed 911 and ambulance took him to hospital, and he was there for 3 months.
Wow!
He was upstairs in the IC ward for 11 days. They came back and he got good and he healed up, and he says, I'm finished for wrestling. I'm going to go back to New Zealand for my daughters and his grandkids. In 2009, he fell out of bed, and it happened again 2010, and they took his hip out. They said to him, we have to take your hip out. The staff is in your hip. So they took his hip out, and they couldn't put a hip in for 4 years. Hence, 2014, they put a new hip in him. They had to wait because they kept testing him to make sure there was no more staff in his body every 6 months, and that in 214, mid 214, they put a hip in him, so he only had one hip for 4 or 5 years, and he'd been walking on a walker or 2 crutches, so he's bent over. Arthritis got in his back bad, and so that's where you see him on stage on 2 crutches on the Hall of Fame, and that, and bent over.
And this past year, you lost Butch, and how difficult was it for you to finally have to say goodbye to him?
When Butch went back to New Zealand in 2002, we'd never done any signings in North America. There was no WrestleCons conventions around, and the boys weren't booked in Comic Cons in those days. Later on, it was 70. Later on in 75, the boys started doing Comic Con. I'm talking about the boys, the wrestlers, and that. So we'd never done a signing anywhere. We might have signed a few photos at an independent show after we worked for Vince. Between 97 and 2001, we worked all around the country doing independent shows. So and signing, those shows were doing a big show would be 2,000. A small one would be 300 people, independent shows. Anyhow, so 215, we had actually 18 dates for them, but a lot of them, pardon me, sir, a lot of them were on the East Coast, the New York area up to Canada, from Philadelphia up to Canada, and it was too much for Butch. But WrestleMania was on 2023 was in California, in LA, and LA is a straight shot from Auckland, New Zealand, straight up to LA. That's all Pacific, and that was a 14-hour flight or 15-hour flight from Auckland, New Zealand to Los Angeles, and we broke it down to 5 days in California, 3 days working the WrestleCon, and 2 days doing independence. So Butch flew in on a Wednesday. He was all excited. He was on a walking stick, because of the back, he was still bent over, but he could walk without a walking stick, but he felt safer with a stick. So Wednesday, we just ate and had a good time. Thursday, we did a private signing in the room. And we went on Facebook Live, while we did the signing, just to show the people that he had arrived in California, right?
Yeah.
We made plans for 8 o'clock in the morning to go down for breakfast. So there's the promoter in 901, which is in 902, no, 903, and I'm in 905 hotel rooms, which is in the middle. Come 8 o'clock in the morning, we knock on his door to go for breakfast. No reply. We bash on the door, no reply. We get security open up the door. He's laying on his bed, incognito, and that was the same thing. Could hardly breathe.
Right.
I had some ambutyl nitrate in a little puffer. I put it in his mouth and I shot it twice. He sort of come to maybe for 10 seconds. Called 911. Ambulance come, took him to the hospital, and they took him straight up into the IC ward. And they said they said, I don't know what they said to us. It was a breathing problem. I'll get to that story in a minute. He was having trouble sucking air. Now, he hopped on the plane on Tuesday, New Zealand time. No, Thursday, New Zealand time. It was in a day. New Zealand's a day ahead, 17 hours ahead, or 18 hours ahead. So he'd hopped on the plane, anyhow, going to American time. He'd stopped taking his water pill on Tuesday. When you have a bad ticker and that, and you're on a water pill. right? He stopped taking it on a Tuesday. Now it's Friday morning. So it's, you know, why he stopped it? Because he knew he had to do signings, and he didn't want to get up and down while he's signing for doing to pee while signing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'd never done a signing. We had a big advance, 25,000 in advance already.
Wow.
Mail orders, you know, signing. So we knew it's going to be huge at WrestleMania, first time ever at WrestleCon, and that. So now this is Friday. They shoot him up to the IC ward, and they tell me they go to sedate him. This was Friday, and they're going to bring him to Saturday night. They said that it takes 12 hours to bring him to, because they bring him too slowly. And by Sunday morning, he should be, you know, he should be back to the real world. Okay, Saturday night, they give him to. Sunday morning, I call up, and they says he never come to. They said, we're going to do some tests on him. An hour and a half later, I get the sad news. His brain is dead. And they said he's going to be in a wheelchair the rest of his life, you know, on a machine. And his wife in New Zealand and his daughters, they never wanted him to come on this tour. And that he wanted to come, and that he loved America. And, you know, we loved each other. We'd been on the road for 33 years. And that, you know, now 50 years we've been together. WrestleMania, we've been together for 50 years. 2023. Anyhow, they called me up, so I have the hard job of calling New Zealand. Oh, this was hard. I had to call his wife in Wellington and his daughters up in Gisborne, wherever they were, Tauranga, and tell them. So they decided to go on. What's the thing? Scoop? What's it called now? The thing where you can do
assisted death.
What's the
Oh,
thing
Zoom.
you can do on
Zoom.
the
I'm
phone?
sorry.
Zoom.
Right.
So they decided at 8:00 at night we're going to go Zoom, and then that's when we're going to take him off the machine. He said he told them, and they all got it. I never want to live on a machine. So 8:00 at night, there's me and the promoter, Scott Wilder, in the room. Oh, by the way, he left New Zealand on that Tuesday or Wednesday, and when he left New Zealand, he had to have a clearance, no COVID. Now they told me he's got COVID, so we're in the room with him. We're in a special room with COVID, and all with masks on and that. And I'm sitting bedside, you know, right to, you know, got my hand on his leg and that, and his hands under the blankets, and he's incognito, of course, and that, and the family all speak to him. His wife talks to him for 10 minutes, and then his daughters both speak to him in Tauranga, because they're on the Zoom call, and we all say a prayer, and then they undo the machine, and the family go off Zoom then, and it took an hour 10 minutes, and he took his last breath. That was it. Butch had left the planet Earth, and God rest his soul. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
God rest.
We appreciate it, Luke.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
That was what. And you know the story. The story was the water had not taking water pills. The water had filled his lungs up, and had gone. And it gone to his heart. The water was gone to his heart, and that's what took his life.
What qualities about Butch do you remember the best? Like what what is it about Butch, the qualities that he possessed that you remember best?
He was a straight up man. You know where we were from, mate. You on a, excuse me a minute.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
You could talk for a minute, mate.
Well, you guys had, like you mentioned, 50 years together, and traveling together, being together all the time, and I can see how close you guys were, and I can hear it, and this is losing more than a friend, right? This is somebody who meant an awful lot to you, and he was really important in your life, and it must have been very
He,
difficult for you.
he was more than a brother. He was more than a brother to me. You know, everybody said when he come up for this signing in L.A. that he come back to the country he loved and to be with his wife. His wife. That was me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You guys
I
were
was with him
partners, no doubt about
more.
that.
The new wife he married in 206, in 206 or 27, and I'd been with him longer than his first wife. His first wife he was for 20 something years. Then he married an American girl from Texas, and then he married the third wife, Helen. When we went back to New Zealand, and I'd been with him. We used to share a hotel room for the first 15 or 20 years, 15 years. Then we got separate rooms, of course, but we drove in the same car every day. We were together every day. For breakfast, we'd go for breakfast or cook breakfast. We'd drive to the towns back in the territorial days before Vince took over, and that we were driving the big territories like South, UWF, Bill Watson's territory, Mid South. We're doing 3,500 miles in the car a day, even in NWA, 3,000 miles a day. You know what I mean? A week, sorry, a week. We're not Superman.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
day.
3,000
That's
miles a
crazy.
week. Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of
And we're
that's a lot of
still
miles.
flying, and we're still flying a day, at that time. So we were, we'd been together that much, and Butch was a ribber, a soft. He'd love to do pranks on people, a soft rib. And here's a big one. Here's one he did on me all the time. God bless him. He still caught me before he died. We'd go into a room for to do a Q&A, and all people were
Yeah.
seated in that, and we'd have to go up on stage, or you have to go into a room for anything, even when we weren't talking. The room was packed with people. I would always go in first, and Butch would be right behind me. Butch would scream out and make a crazy noise or say something crazy, and then push me in and close the door. He wouldn't come in, and everyone would look around. Everyone would look around at me, and I embarrassed him. He even did that the weekend he came up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was that Thursday night. We sat at a table in the hotel. It's one of the main hotels downtown. That's where the convention was going to be, and Honky was with us, Honky Tonk Man, and Brandon Kelly, a friend of ours from Columbus. Honky's from Arizona now. He was originally from Memphis, and the notorious photographer George Napolitano, who had been doing. He'd worked for Vince Senior. He used to do the wrestling magazines for Vince Senior for Madison Square Gardens. And in the 70s and 80s, he was putting out 6 wrestling magazines every 2 months. Every 2 months, he put out 6 new magazines, all different covers. And some of them, the editor was his wife's name or his son's name, and his name in some of them. And he'd put hardcover books out in the 80s. like the books that Vince puts out now, the big encyclopedias. He did them himself in the 80s. Yeah, he was at the table with us. He works for Getty now. Photographer
Getty
for Getty,
Pictures, yeah.
part-time. Part-time, but he was a school teacher all his life, and he taught photography at school. So he'd go out wrestling. He would go to wrestling shows, WWF wrestling shows around New York during the week, and he'd take the film to school, and all the students who do photography would do all the process. They do all the work and develop the photos for him. That was their class every day, developing wrestling photos for George.
Well, yeah. Wrestling's harder.
Yeah, he was
Wrestling's
a great
harder.
man.
Yeah.
I know George first, before we became television stars, George had us on magazine covers from 1973 when he came over to a big show in Montreal. It was in Jerry Park where they had the Olympics in 1966, I think. Jerry Park,
Yeah.
Montreal.
The Expo 67. Yeah, Expo 67. And then they had the
You've got
Olympics
a
in
good memory,
76
mate.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Jerry
forgot
Parker's where the Expos
I'm
played.
in your country. I'm in your country. Anyhow, we're in Jerry Park, and we at that time we broke the world record, or near the world record. We had 30,000 people there for a big match. Killer Kowalski against Mad Dog Vachon.
So
and Andre, and it was the super card. And then and George, that's when we first met George Napolitano. And then since then we were friends with him.
Well, you know what? I just want to touch on this before I let you go, Luke. But you're 77 years old in January now, and you're still going at it. We're still going at it here, buddy. We got some recent action involving the Bitcoin boys and the Duke. You're giving the business here to Mikey. Tell us about what's going on here.
My photo's right over my screen. Talking to you is right over the match. I can see the bottom of the ring. All these matches and stuff. All these matches and stuff. Your thing. I couldn't see the matches. I only could see the feet.
Right.
Yeah, but I see this is outside.
So now, 70. How do you do it though? How do you do it? And, Luke, it's 77 years of age, getting into the ring. Well, almost 77.
I'm getting in the ring in the 15th, in the mate, on the 15th of December. I think I may call that my last shot.
That's going to be the last fight?
Yeah, I think I'm going to call that my last shot. I'd like to do one when I'm 77. I don't say. We're gonna see.
That's a pretty lucky number, 77. That's I guarantee you, if you do the match when you turn 77, you'll definitely be the oldest wrestler to ever compete and have the longest career. No doubt about that.
I'm the second oldest now. I'm the second oldest now. The great Kochika in Japan, he owns a wrestling promotion. He's part owner of a wrestling promotion now. He's the oldest, mate. He's 79. He's 79. He just goes in the ring in a 6-man tag and that, like that. And makes just maybe make an appearance, you know what I mean? And I'm number 2.
Well, you're in pretty good company, I'll tell you that. And you've been a pretty special competitor your entire life, Luke. And we really appreciate you being on the show here today and sharing your memories of Butch and just sharing your memories in general. It's been great.
Appreciate Luke, you having me here and talking to all my Canadian fans. And of course, this can be picked up by anybody in the world. It'll be on your
YouTube channel.
Tell them where the people can find it, mate.
Yeah. Oh, you get Joe Tilley Sports on Instagram and Joe Tilley on Instagram, Joe Swiss Tilley on Instagram, Joe Swiss Tilley on Twitter. You can pick up the show on all the basic, all the usual podcast networks, as well as on YouTube. You can see this show as well as the shows. You can see all the previous shows on FaceTime, and just look up Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. You'll find it. But thank you. Appreciate that, Luke.
Just go to Joe Tilley's with Bushwhacker Luke. Whoa!
I
do. Yay!
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, buddy. All right. Bushwhacker Luke, it's been great having you on. We'll have more when we come back.
What our kids breathe matters more than ever. But how can you tell if a school is safe to breathe in? If you could actually see what's in the air, would you keep them home? Introducing Air Patrol, making the invisible visible, ensuring schools are safer for everyone. Breathe safely.
Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca.
MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. And we want to thank all the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great people. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian and local sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, as well as the Spanglish Network, Zingo TV, Buzz TV Live. Also, check out the show on YouTube. All of our past great shows are on there, clips and shorts, lots to see. Like and subscribe. It is absolutely free. Thanks once again to Bushwhacker Luke for being on the program. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Ryan Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in their early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678.
Air quality at work matters more than ever. But there's no way to tell if a space is safe to breathe in. If you could actually see what's in the air, would you even come to work? Introducing Air Patrol, making the invisible visible, ensuring workplaces are safer for everyone. Breathe safely.
Rooted in 60 years of tradition, Sleepy Hollow is a private golf club with a friendly community of members just minutes from Toronto. With mature trees and rolling fairways, Sleepy Hollow provides a challenging and enjoyable experience for passionate golfers. Enjoy great golf, amazing dining, and a picturesque patio second to none. Visit SleepyHollowCountryClub.com. Hi there, I'm Joe Tilley. Are you ready for an adventure of a lifetime? Next March, during the enchanting cherry blossom season, join me and my wife for an unforgettable 2-week journey to Japan and South Korea. In Japan, you'll experience the magic of the season as we visit the stunning Osaka Castle against the backdrop of cherry blossoms. Feed the adorable Sika deer at Nara Park, glide through picturesque landscapes on the famed bullet train, cruise on Lake Kawaguchi, and witness the awe-inspiring view of Mount Fuji. Relax in natural hot springs and savor a delightful Fuji dinner banquet while dressing in traditional robes. And of course, we'll dive into Tokyo's cutting-edge technology scene. In Korea, dress in elegant hanbok attire and step back in time at Cheongdokgung Palace. Wander through Andong Village, a true glimpse into Korea's rich heritage. Delight your taste buds with the flavors of Korean barbecue. We'll even visit the DMZ area to get a glimpse of mysterious North Korea. And guess what? This incredible journey is all yours for just $54.99, all-inclusive, with direct flights from Vancouver, or $58.99 from Toronto. Book now to unlock up to an extra $1,700 in upgrades and savings. Let's make some memories. Let's explore. Let's travel.
Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.